And welcome back to Chicago Bulls Insider. Today, we are talking about another sleeper pick at the center position that the Chicago Bulls should take a look at in the second round in this upcoming NBA draft. And so before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to slam dunk on that subscribe button, just like Modest Mazelis slam dunks in games. And so in exchange for slamming on that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Chicago Bulls. So make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Chicago Bulls Insider family as we talk nothing but Chicago Bulls basketball. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it as we're talking about NBA draft prospect Rocco Zikarsky out of Australia. And so if you've not got a chance to see his highlights or you haven't heard about him, he is a 7'4" center out of Australia, 257. He's 18 years old. He has a 7'4" wingspan. He has a 9'6" standing reach. And he played for the Brisbane Bullets. That's in the NBL League. He also was a part of the NBA Global Academy as well. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump into the numbers. We're going to look at the pros. We're going to look at the cons. And if this is something that makes sense along with the player comparisons. And so let's go ahead and let's jump into the numbers. And so when you look at the numbers, you're going to see a player that really doesn't have much as far as the stats are concerned. But when you look at the highlights, I think that is really where you see the upside. And I think you can see a player that is raw, but man, if he gets coached up, he could have some real potential at the next level. And so when you look at the numbers, you see a player that only averaged 4.6 points per game, 0.3 with the assist, 0.6 with the turnovers, 3.4 with the rebounds, 52% from the field, 57.1% from the free throw line, and 20% from the three-point line, and then 11.8 minutes a game is what he played in this last season. And so some of the pluses here is that you do see that his free throw percentage went up slightly. He shot 50% the season before. And also, too, with the three-point percentage, I know it's a small sample size, but he didn't shoot any threes in the first season, and he made got to 20% here in the second season. Then also, too, you see that the minutes slightly increased as well. And so that's a good thing. And so next, let's go ahead and let's jump into the things that he does well. And I think some of the things that certainly would make you interested in drafting him. And so I think the first thing that's there for him is that he has a real good feel for the game. And so when you're looking at him offensively, this is a player that very much is going to depend on somebody else setting him up for his offense because he is a finisher. He's going to be a lob threat. But he's not shown any flashes as far as being a player that can make plays with the ball in his hand. Now, if you go back and you look at some of the things that he did in the youth league and stuff like that, you'll see that. But since he's gone pro over there in Australia, I have not seen that. So more you see a finisher and somebody that's going to be a lob threat. And so, I think the first thing with him as far as the feel for the game is that he knows how to get to the dunker spot. He understands when to rotate and things like that to where you can find him, make the assist, and he can finish. And so I think he has a good feel for the game off ball that way. Next for him, I think the next big thing is just that he has terrific mobility. I think that when he comes up to screen, it's a nice wide screen. He knows how to roll and everything else. And so he's pretty good there as far as showing his mobility, knowing how to get off of, just setting the screen and then start to roll to the basket. So you see that with him. Next, I think he's very solid as far as finishing at the rim. I think that, he's a player that once he gets it into his hands, he definitely knows what to do with it. He's going for the dunk and everything else. And so I like the fact that he plays with that type of edge and chippiness to finish at the rim big and not go up for the layups and things like that. And so the next thing with him is I think that he would be solid probably off the handoff actions and stuff like that, especially with the height. Like, I definitely think that if you're running that type of situation at the top of the key, he's going to be terrific as far as getting your guards loose because, you have to go around him, through him, or whatever the case may be. And so that little split second or two, that could be the difference between your guard getting downhill or getting into position to get the defense off balance. And so I think that he could definitely help an offense that way. And so the next thing with him is, man, he can run. I think that when you're looking at him as a big, his highlights and things like that, it suggests a player that is going to be able to get up the floor in a fast break situation. I think that he'll be able to do that. Next, I think defensively, how that helps him is that there were times where I've seen like clips where guards were coming at him and stuff like that, and he has the ability to kind of get back to a spot, contest, and things like that. He knows how to backpedal and stuff like that. So he's fluid and he can run. So I do like that about him. So he's athletic, I think, as a big man. And so next, I think the timing. And so I do like his timing defensively, his block shots and stuff like that. I think that I liked a lot of the contests that I saw with him and stuff like that. And so it seems like that he understands what to do as far as timing, because, his block shots and stuff like that weren't just people coming at him. There were times where he had to make the adjustment, meaning that it was like 2-on-1 where the offensive man had beat his man. He's getting ready to rotate out onto the corner, but he's able to stop, come back, and then still get a block shot that way. And so that shows me that, look, he's perfect as far as understanding what to do there, and then the timing not to foul and to get a block shot or a good contest in those situations. I like that. And so the next thing we want to go ahead and look at is the weaknesses for him. And so I think that the first weakness for Zikarsky is going to be he just doesn't have like a jump shot. Like there's nothing that shows me that he's going to necessarily be a player that can just create his own offense and score from the outside. Now, maybe that's something that he does, get develop when he gets to the next level. You're probably going to have to coach it out of him. But right now, I don't see a player that is going to be able to necessarily score outside of the paint. Now, that could definitely change. Players definitely could get a different feel for the game as they move up to the next level. Definitely you can work on that and you can get to it. But right now, I don't see that. And so the next thing I think, as far as just the weakness for him, is you wonder, is he going to have to be a guy that plays in a lot of drops and stuff like that? Because he does look fluid. He looks like he can run and stuff like that. But I wonder, does it necessarily translate to the NBA? Because one of the things that was talked about was just the competition level that he played with. Now, the size that he's going to play against and the speed that he's going to play against in the NBA, that's going to be the real question mark as to where does that really translate over to the next level. And so I think that could also be a weakness here for him. And so the next thing that I would say is that he's definitely got to get bigger. And so I did see where he's done an interview there where he just doesn't want to put on any type of weight, but he definitely needs to bulk up, get stronger, and everything else to take the impact that he's going to face at the next level, because he's certainly going to face a lot of players that are going to want to go ahead, post him up and things like that. So he's going to have the strength, get stronger with his base and everything else to be able to push those players off of their spots and be able to fight for good contests and things like that. And so the next thing for him is just that he's not a very good passer. So you're looking at a player that didn't show too much of that, out of the post or anything like that, or a playmaking ability. And then next, I would say that he's a player that really is going to be reliant on somebody setting him up. And so you better have some good guard play and stuff like that, which we do. If the Chicago Bulls were to take a chance with him in the second round, I could see that, based off what he can do as far as, just finishing at the rim as a lob threat and really turning into a terrific just defender as far as just on that back line and everything else. Like I could see that. And look, with limited offense, he's a player that, I could definitely see that with Coby White and some of these guards that he could fit in there, but he's also going to have to develop a lot more there. And so when you look at the player comparison, what I see here is one of the comparisons that I saw here on Yahoo Sports, and I'm kind of like okay with this one, but it's in between. And so I got Yaka Pirtle, and so him out of Toronto. So there's a comparison for him. Then another comparison for me personally, just kind of looking at him, is I see more of like a Clint Capella type of player. And I think of Clint Capella because Clint Capella is a player that, when you go back early in his years, when he first started off with the Houston Rockets, very dependent on like of with James Harden and those guys getting downhill, throwing them lobs, bounce passes into the dunker spots and things like that, and finishing. Now, he does have some pretty good touch as far as like little hook shots and stuff like that. And I do think that you do see that with Roscoe Zikarsky sometimes. I mean, he would have to get even more better at that. And so that's why I'm like, I could see a bit of the Clint Capella kind of comparisons there. And so I think that that's where I'm at with him. But the bottom line is that if the Bulls were to take a chance with him in the second round, I don't think that it would be something that they would do at pick number 45. I think that this is more so something where it's going to be later in the second round, or it could be an undrafted player if that happens too as well. But I do think that he's going to go in the second round for sure, because at 18 years old, I just think that a lot of players, or not a players, a lot of GMs are going to want to take a player that is that young with that type of upside, because he does have, I think, a ton of upside at only 18 years old. I think he'll be 19 once we get into the draft and everything else, but still a ton of time. And I mean, there's still a lot of growth that you'd be banking on. But what do you guys think here? Do you think that the Chicago Bulls should have Roscoe Zikarsky on the draft radar for the second round? Do you think that this is a player that maybe the Chicago Bulls would be wise to stay away from? Because like I said, I think that you're looking at a bit of a project. But, man, if he really pans out, this could be a terrific type of player for you, especially being a rotational big and really a tone setter, I think, on the defensive end here. And so one other note, too, is that he did play against Aaron Baines as well. And so Aaron Baines, if you remember him, he won a NBA championship with the San Antonio Spurs in 2014. And so these are the type of players that he was going against at times there. And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments here, what do you guys think about Roscoe Zikarsky and if the Chicago Bulls should take him in the second round? And as we always say, go Bulls, and I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.